congrats agents. And we're going to do a short video update from Cooper.
Hi, KW Colorado. I'm Cooper Thayer, your Chief Market Strategist, here with a quick January update for you. And we're going to take a look back at some of the trends that defined 2025, as well as some of the key focus areas that I'm looking at as we head into 2026. So to start, let's look statewide at what happened last year. Things looked relatively flat. Of course, we know we had tons more new listings, up about 8%. But overall, the number of pending and sold listings was only up about 1 to 2%, and median sale prices for all listings remained relatively flat. In fact, they were only up about $50 year over year from 2024 to 2025. But under the surface, it's really two very different markets. We have the single-family market, which has performed very well and historically similar to what we've seen over the past decade, versus the townhouse and condo or attached market, which has really struggled and displayed very different characteristics. So diving into these numbers a little bit, single-family listings were up about 8.6% in terms of new listings hitting the market, and pending and closed listings increased between 3 and 4%. We also saw some moderate price appreciation statewide, with the median sale price up about 0.3% to $584,000, and the average sale price up about 1.7%. That's drawn up by higher price listings, pulling that average upwards. And of course, as we all know, average time on market did increase about 15% to 61 days statewide last year. Now, in the attached segment, things looked very different. The only consistent numbers were an increase in new listings and an increase in time on market. Everything else looked very, very different. Pending listings and closed listings declined between 4.7 and 6.4%. That is a big decline in the number of closed listings. And we've also seen some price corrections in terms of condos and townhouses because of some of the affordability challenges that are facing buyers right now. Sellers are having to compensate for those challenges in order to draw buyers in. So median close prices actually declined about 3%, and average close prices declined about 4% year over year. So back to the single family market. We have continued to see appreciation, but just at a more modest pace. And honestly, I think this is a more sustainable and healthy pace. If we look back over the past 10 years, single family homes statewide increased in value anywhere from 5 to 10, or even in 2021, we saw a 17, almost 18% jump in median sale prices of single-family homes statewide. If we take that 10-year average, we've seen single-family homes increase in price by about 7% every single year for the last 10 years. That is intense appreciation. If we look back over the past 50, 60, 70 years in the entire country, homes generally appreciate only about 4.27%. So Colorado, over the last 10 years, the trajectory has been at a very steep pace of appreciation that has priced a lot of buyers out. So we've seen that curve flatten a little bit. Things are still appreciating. Again, we did see a 0.3% improvement in median single-family home prices this past year, but they are appreciating at a slower rate. Now, the big trend in condominiums, and one of the big reasons that we've seen price declines, is of course HOA dues. If we look at the median and average price for HOA fees monthly, this last year, median fees reached about $425 a month with an average of about $500 a month. So that's between 40 and 50 cents per square foot per month. And if we look at what the average HOA or what the average condo looks like in terms of size, this shows us really where that affordability constraint is. So on average, at current interest rates, every $100 of HOA dues per month, or incremental increase in costs, equates to about $16,000 or $17,000 of buyer purchasing power. So that has completely changed the condo market and made it much more difficult for buyers to find affordability, especially in that entry level segment, and that's built up that inventory. And we see this in the numbers. Now, historically, what's really interesting, if we look back to the 5-year period between 2015 and 2020, condo inventory represented by that orange line was always consistently lower than single family homes and townhomes. That has changed in the last 2 years, where we now have consistently higher levels of relative inventory for condominiums when compared to single family and townhomes. And this number is very interesting. It kind of tells you a little bit about what happened last year. Condo and townhouse listings comprised about 24.8% of all new listings, but just 20.9% of all closings. And what that tells you is that homes are coming on the market and they are not closing. Of course, those condos that do not follow the trends of falling and correcting prices have struggled to find buyers and bring them in the door. Now, this has resulted in a big decline in condo sales. In fact, we're down about 42.5% off of the 2021 peak, where we had about 12,500 condos being sold monthly on average. We're down to just about 7,200, which is around the same level that we saw in mid-2013. Now, the big reason for this, again, was HOAs, but it's a broader trend of lack of motivation because renting is so much cheaper than buying today. In fact, in November, Colorado ranked number 7 in the country with the highest buy versus rent differential at 85.8%. That means that on average, it was about $1,600 or $1,700 more per month to buy the typical home, excluding the down payment, than renting the typical apartment. So how are sellers adding motivation to buyers and trying to incentivize them to visit their homes and to buy their homes? Well, obviously, we are seeing slowdown in pricing, and we're also seeing tons of concessions. Last year, we saw about 62% of all transactions, at least in the Denver metro area, with some sort of concession logged, and the average amount of that was over $11,000. So the big question has been, are we in a buyer's market? And there's arguments for, saying we're in a balanced market with our levels of inventory now. But in my opinion, I believe we are in a true buyer's market heading into 2026. Buyers are taking a median of 3.9% of a net discount off of original asking prices. What I mean by that is we take our top line original list price number, we subtract what the property actually closed for, net of concessions, so our net close price, and we see that buyers are getting just about a 4% net discount on homes. So as we're in a buyer's market, my advice for you is to just really position yourself for price normalization. And this is something that's a little uncomfortable to talk about, but again, our trajectory of home price increases has been incredibly steep and, in my opinion, unsustainable. So we've seen this slight correction start to appear in the long-term trend of pricing. And I want to encourage everyone to educate your clients, buyers and sellers alike, that it is not unhealthy for prices to correct in the short term to return to that sustainable trajectory. And there's a lot of different ways that this could look like. We could see something like a sharper downturn in the short term, which will correct prices and then they'll continue to increase. We could see something a little bit slower where prices continue to decline at a much slower pace every year. But what I want to emphasize here is that it is necessary for long-term stability for prices to normalize. When we think about historical context, when prices have doubled statewide in the past 10 or 15 years, a modest softening, a modest correction is normal, is not a reversal of the fundamentals of the key factors of our market, where we still have just an incredible mismatch between supply and demand when it comes to the systemic and overall lack of housing stock, not inventory. So here's 2 things that you should do right now with this information. Number 1, know that active listings have bottomed out for this sales cycle. As of today, January 23rd, There's about 24,800 listings in the RE Colorado MLS. That is going to be the lowest level for this sales cycle. So active listing counts will continue to go up as we enter in the spring market. What this means for you, let your buyers know. Call them and say, hey, we have reached the quietest point of the year. If you want to start looking, now's the time, because inventory is going to go up from here. Things are only going to get better for you as a buyer when it comes to your options and your choices. So now is a good time to start looking. The second thing that you should be letting your buyers and sellers know is that mortgage rates have continued to decline. In fact, we are going to touch 6%. We actually dipped below it for a intraday last week. Within one day, we dipped down to just under 6%, but we are seeing a trend of mortgage rate decline, and this means that buyers are going to find more motivation. Their monthly payment pressure is going to ease slightly, and buyers will enter the market as payments come down and rates come down a little bit. So tell your buyers, look, interest rates are coming down, mortgage rates are coming down. Affordability may not be as big of a challenge for you this year compared to this time last year when they were around 7%. And for sellers, you can say, hey, look, buyers are going to be re-entering this market because mortgage rates are really touching that 6% level now. A lot of times they are below, especially with buy downs. And if you offer concessions, you can get your buyers down to a monthly payment that is extremely comfortable for them, and thus they will be attracted to your house. So that is my thoughts on last year and quick predictions heading into this year. I think the market's going to look a lot like it did last year, but we are going to see incremental increases in activity as mortgage rates come down. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me. My email and phone number on that screen. You can always call, text, email me, and I would be happy to discuss your local market in particular or answer any questions you might have. Thank you.
All right. Thank you to Cooper.